A devastating shock has just hit Maranello, with Ferrari suddenly becoming the centre of attention after Ralf Schumacher's scathing remarks were made public and mercilessly shattered the positive narrative surrounding Lewis Hamilton's future in the 2026 season. This has sparked an internal drama that can no longer be hidden from public view. Is this a sign that Ferrari's grand project is about to collapse before it even begins? Let's discuss it. The start of every Formula One season produces two categories of driver: those who are comfortably seated and those who bear the burden of proof. At the top of the 2025 standings, the positions of the McLaren duo, Max Verstappen and George Russell, seem secure. But further down the list, one big name is in the spotlight: Lewis Hamilton. With 7 World Championship titles and the most wins in F1 history, Hamilton should logically have nothing to prove. But reality dictates otherwise. His frustrating final few seasons at Mercedes, which were often blamed on the quality of the car, have left a major question mark hanging over him. So when he moved to Ferrari, public expectations immediately soared. Hamilton would at least have to equal, if not surpass, Charles Leclerc. The big narrative surrounding Hamilton's move to Maranello was regular podiums, fighting for victories, and even dreaming of an 8th world title. But as Formula One prepares to enter the new era of regulations in 2026, with the first pre-season test fast approaching, all Formula One teams are working non-stop, mining data in the simulator, testing aerodynamic concepts in the wind tunnel, and developing ideas in the factory. The 2026 regulations are being touted as a complete reset and a golden opportunity to rebuild the power hierarchy from scratch. McLaren and Red Bull hope this reset will extend their dominance, while Williams will be content to remain consistent in the midfield. However, for Ferrari, this reset feels far more demanding, more like a final test than a fresh start. The 2025 season brings with it a bittersweet reflection that is hard to avoid. Ferrari finished 4th in the constructors' standings, well behind its main rivals. Lewis Hamilton languished in 6th place in the drivers' standings, nearly 100 points behind Charles Leclerc, a disappointing outcome that emphasised internal imbalances. Even more painful was the fact that Ferrari was barely in the running for victory, let alone achieving its ultimate ambition of winning the World Championship title. Hamilton's move to Maranello was initially intended as a comeback in the twilight of his career. The grand mission was to overtake Michael Schumacher's 7 titles and establish himself as the greatest driver of all time in the legendary red jersey. However, rather than providing a platform for redemption, Ferrari has become an increasingly heavy burden of history, at a time when new regulations demand the courage to truly let go of the past. Ferrari's long history is filled with increasingly worrying patterns. Sebastian Vettel arrived at Maranello as a world champion with an unquestionable reputation, only to leave disappointed, his career slowly fading. Fernando Alonso arrived with hopes of a revival, nearly winning the World Championship, but ultimately falling short. Kimi Raikkonen won a championship, but during his second stint, he faced the harsh reality that the Ferrari he was driving could no longer compete at the highest level. Now it's Charles Leclerc's turn. This extraordinary talent, tipped as the future of the Scuderia, has started to exhibit signs of frustration through his body language and tone of voice. He has even made vague statements hinting at anxiety and suggesting that he may leave if the situation doesn't improve. Lewis Hamilton is just the latest in a long line of world champions who have tried to turn Ferrari around, hoping that his experience and status can break the age-old curse. However, the problem, as the bitter analogy often circulating in the paddock suggests, is signing a contract with Ferrari and hoping that they will change their bad habits. History has repeatedly shown that this hope almost always ends in disappointment. Hamilton, known for his vocal and detailed approach, did something that few of his predecessors had done. He wrote a technical document evaluating Ferrari and setting out demands for internal changes. Substantively, there was nothing wrong with it. However, his approach backfired. Ralf Schumacher openly advised Hamilton to be more discreet. He argued that, by publicly announcing his dossier on Ferrari's problems, Hamilton had damaged team morale without intending to. Imagine working for an F1 team and then having a new driver arrive and tell the world that your system is broken. A defensive reaction would be almost inevitable. Ferrari does have problems, as is evident on the track. In his strongly worded comments, Ralf Schumacher rejected the idea that all of Hamilton's problems were solely the car's fault. Lewis used to be able to lift the team and the car. Now, however, I see a driver who complains more than he makes a real impact on the track. This statement was hurtful because it undermined Hamilton's reputation as a game-changer. But Ralf's criticism didn't stop there. He felt that Hamilton's approach to Ferrari had actually worsened the situation. Coming to Ferrari and then publicly saying you've brought a stack of documents about what went wrong isn't leadership. It's destructive public pressure, he asserted. According to Ralf, this approach makes Hamilton look like a driver trying to take on the role of engineer without the authority that Michael Schumacher once had. Ironically, Ralf Schumacher's comments were even crueler to Ferrari itself. Ferrari loves to recruit world champions in the hope of achieving miracles. However, Schumacher believes that Ferrari's success was not due to him, but rather because he took over everything. He believes that Ferrari is still living in the shadow of its past successes, without understanding what made them successful in the first place. According to Ralf, Hamilton is just the latest victim of that illusion. Giving Hamilton the most expensive contract in Formula One history does not prove championship ambition. It's proof that Ferrari cares more about image than structure. These words hit home at Maranello. Ferrari is seen as paying for a big name and global recognition, rather than building a winning team. For Ralf Schumacher, the situation is now crystal clear: one-sided pressure and a repeated destiny. The pressure is on Hamilton to prove that he still has what it takes. Meanwhile, Ferrari has been relatively safe from expectations. If they fail, people will say Hamilton is getting old. But if Ferrari fails, people will simply say, "Well, that's Ferrari," Ralf quipped coldly. When people talk about Ferrari's success, they're only referring to two eras: the pre-1980s era and the Michael Schumacher era. However, Schumacher's success was not just down to the great Ferrari, but also to the total management structure he introduced: Jean Todt, Ross Brawn and Rory Byrne, as well as complete freedom from corporate interference. It was this structure that transformed Ferrari into a winning machine. When that structure disappeared, the magic vanished. Hamilton arrived alone. Without a shadow team to demand a budget, control and complete independence, he was only given a car and hope. Ironically, Hamilton is under the most pressure. He must prove that he's not finished yet. Meanwhile, Ferrari has little hope. Disappointment has become the default expectation. Are we witnessing Lewis Hamilton repeating the fate of the legends that Ferrari failed to save, or will Ferrari fail to save itself once again? Let us know your thoughts below.